Hello from Paris, France, and welcome back to the Agatas Art Chronicles podcast, where we explore the life and career of Paul Agatas. I'm Ed Hoskin, and in this episode we cliff dive back into Paul's Basque origins and hear about the incredible opportunity that he was given to paint in the town of Gorliz. So last week we finished a mural, the biggest mural, and this week we're going to cover the ultimate mural in terms of, from a personal perspective, I would have thought, in some ways.
Yeah. Plus, it was done in a style of my style, which is not
indeed
just realistic faces. In other words, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. So this is a mural that was completed in when 2010. 2010.
2010. Yeah.
In, I don't know how to pronounce this.
Gorliz.
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 Bizkaia.
Maybe we should
the Basque Country,
give you a little background.
Well, that's what
again
I was going to say.
On Gorliz.
First, I get the pronunciation right. Gorliz.
Gorliz in the what bay is it? The Bay of Biscay.
Bay of Biscay. Yes.
You know, on the Atlantic there.
Yeah.
Gorliz, actually, until I looked it up recently, they say 842 meters of extension. One of the most extensive beaches of Bizkaia.
Beautiful beach.
So I didn't realize, and then only because I was reading lately,
beach, right?
a crescent beach, it's the safest. It's a microclimate, and it is. They actually say that it is considered, the beach of the Basque Country. There's many beautiful beaches, right?
Yeah.
But it's pretty famous
since it's
for
been redeveloped as well by my cousin, who was the mayor of the town.
He was mayor for 12 years.
He actually took all the buildings away from the beach. There was some restaurants down on the beach, and he's had everything removed, and the beach has been extended about another 150, 200 yards back. And so it actually really is an amazing sight now to go there. They've got a walkway that goes all the way around the beach. Not one building on the beach, not one hotel or anything.
Yeah, just the sanatorium.
Just the sanatorium,
that
which
remains
has been there
across
for 100 years. Yeah. And so it really has a natural feel to it now. They've even let the seagrass grow, one of those bulrushes.
The bulrushes, the weeds.
So it really is fascinating now.
And the sanatorium is, there is that little road, and then the sanatorium has always been there since the 1900s.
Oh, God knows, the beginning
and
of time.
Because of the climate and the ocean.
The ocean air is supposed to be very healthy, so it's always been a place for rehabilitation for children with breathing problems or elderly as well.
Bones.
And bones, It's supposed to be very healthy.
Yeah, and it's
about a 5-minute walk from my grandfather's farm, so perfect.
And, once again, Paul's grandfather, for me, just the fact that he actually had the foresight to purchase this land. And he purchased a bit at a time till he ends up with half a mountain in front of the most spectacular beach of the
Well, it goes back then, there was no tourists.
Tourists. No, they weren't thinking of...
There was only about 1,000 people in the town, wasn't there?
Yeah, 1,400. In the 1900s, that's what they said.
Yeah.
And now, and then it went up to about 4,000 or 5,000.
Well, when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, when you were a kid.
There was still hardly anybody there. It was just farmland and farms and, a church. And
even myself.
Not many apartments at all. It was all houses and farms,
I think we've talked about this right at the beginning with the origins issue episode. But it's to anyone who's not familiar, it's the joint between, say, France and Spain. That's where you turn a corner and you come to Biarritz, that everyone's heard of. Then you come to the famous San Sebastian, and you keep going, and eventually you come to Bilbao, which is a big famous city.
Yeah.
Now with the Guggenheim, of course.
Gorliz is in between the two. Gorliz is around.
We're just now they've introduced the new freeway maybe 15, 20
Oh, it only
years.
takes 15 minutes on the motorway, but it used to take an hour, of course.
And that's how the population has gone up to 9,000, because many of the wealthy...
The rich have been building their apartments in the towns.
Well, the wealthy always came for the summer, where they had homes that were for the summer. Then they go back, for the winter. Maybe it would take 45 minutes or something. Back.
Now they can work in Bilbao and live in the town because it's...
Yes, it's true.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's managed to keep that sort of small town feeling. You can see on Google Earth there's still nothing built near the beach, really. So they've managed
They don't allow.
They
will not.
That's right.
So we sort
but
of
you know that
that.
the Basques do have a very protective attitude to their land and their culture, and so protecting things like beaches and that is a very important thing for them.
Yeah.
You have the Dunas petrificadas as well, apparently. Did you know what that is?
What is that?
Well, it must be petrified dunes on the far side.
Oh, that's
the
right.
Dunes, of course,
that's what they've
dunes,
done.
Yeah.
Which they have.
They're natural. They're natural.
Yeah.
They go right into the pine forest. Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
the beach originally probably went another half mile back because sand is still all over the place.
And that was the idea, to bring the beach back to its original form.
What they were trying
that
to
went
do,
back much further, right?
Yeah, even before the sanatorium was there.
Yeah.
And we've had many exhibitions in the towns, in both towns.
Plancia and Gorliz.
Gorliz and in Bermeo, which is another big seaport further along towards San Sebastian. So we've done exhibitions in the whole area. For many, many years we've done exhibitions, which have been great because, they really patronize anybody who's Basque.
Yeah.
And because my name is Basque, that's it. Even though I'm, half English, it won't make any difference. The name's Basque, though.
Well, you have your patrons and admirers.
I've never had a bad show there. It's like they come with the money ready to buy.
Yeah, they do that.
You don't have to convince them. It's amazing.
I just wanted to cover the home. I mean, we've covered this before a bit, but it is this sort of...
It's worth doing again, though.
It's the ancestral home of the Agatas, and which is the property that was owned there, and I guess that goes back quite a long time, huh? The grandfather
it goes back a few hundred years.
Yeah.
Well, Pacho Igartua, he was certainly well known. Everybody knew who the Igartuas were because they owned half of that mountain. When you're in Gorliz and you look up, even today, like the family all own, still pieces of land, and they've sold a little bit. But in general, it's... right? They know it's Igartua. Well, we always say it's Igartua land.
I've still got land there, and my cousins all own land there.
Just recapping again, obviously your father, your heritage comes from the fact that your father had to become a refugee.
Yeah, he left when he was 17 before the Civil War started, and he was traveling on a boat through South America, Rio de Janeiro, all around the world this boat went, and he was studying engineering. But on the way back to Spain, the Civil War broke out, so the boat docked in Liverpool, and the 5 Basques who were on board,
or maybe more
than 5, they were given political asylum if they wanted to jump ship in Liverpool, because otherwise they'd have had to go in the military when they got back to Spain, fighting their own people for Franco, because he was military age.
And I always say it was actually Pablo's destiny decided by the 2 wars, the Civil War and the Second World War. Just by chance, he meets Dorothy, and she actually came from a very traditional British family. But being an artist, she was open to everything, and that's how that Paul wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
No, in those days, it wasn't very kosher to marry a Spaniard or a foreigner.
And then out popped little Paul, and then exactly.
That's right.
And then you discovered your Basque heritage through growing up, and you started to understand a bit what Basque was and the language and
that was
the heritage.
When I was 4 years of age, it was the first time my father could go back to Spain. back to the Basque Country because of the political amnesty, and plus he was a British subject by then.
And your family name was known there, and I suppose did some Yagatas remain there, and
They all did.
They all
Nobody
did.
left.
apart from your father.
From Pablo.
That's right.
Yeah.
My dad was the only one in the family who left.
And that's what Paul would always say. Hey, you walk down the street, everybody knows me.
Yes, I used to say it's the only place in the world I can walk down the street and say, "Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing?" You know, because I grew up there from 4 years of age, so I had different groups of kids and guys that I was always with, you know.
Yeah.
So I got to know the whole village very well. You know, in those days there was hardly any tourists around, so it was all locals.
And the thing is, you were always
they don't
there
leave
for
the town.
summer.
They're all
And
still
that's
there.
when you have the fiestas.
Yeah, I don't blame them not leaving. Actually, they're living in pretty well
wonderful.
paradise, for crying out loud.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh my God, you're kidding? With a beach like that and the town with all the beautiful cheap restaurants and everything. Why would you want to go anywhere? You know, no point.
Fair enough.
That's right. But yeah,
My
always.
grandfather, of course, was at sea all his life.
And he was
And
chef.
he was the head chef, which he had 100 chefs under him
Mayordomo.
on the Reina del Pacifico, which was the biggest ocean liner of the times. And that had 3,000 passengers back then. So there was more people on his boat than in the village.
That's right. But he was obviously
He was a very popular guy because when he came home
Yeah.
from 9 months at sea, he'd have 6 taxis waiting for him to load up with all the goodies he'd managed to store and
Yeah, but
take off the boat.
when that trip's finished, I mean, they have probably things that will spoil as well.
He'd come
You know
into
what I mean?
town, into the village,
He'd
into
bring
the
in your
centre,
hams
into the
and-
centre square with all these taxis, and everyone knew he was coming. The word was out, and he just hand all this stuff to everybody in the village. So he was a very popular guy.
Well, he was obviously he was not only a businessman, but he really knew what he was doing. I was from the day one when I got there. I don't think anybody, especially in my hardly could speak Spanish.
Yeah.
But I was fascinated. Like, how did this guy manage to buy all this land?
All my life, people were coming up to me who I never knew, telling me what a wonderful guy my grandfather was, and how famous he was, and how it's amazing. Yeah, he was quite a character. He died young as well, 59.
Yeah.
I got to see him when I was
they do
4
enjoy
years of
themselves.
age, but by the time I was 8, he died already.
Yeah, but your grandmother lived to
My grandmother lived to
89,
85,
80 something
something like that.
Yeah.
All that plus the fact that particularly the Basque heritage and culture is somewhat still sort of shrouded in a little bit of mystery, and the fact that it's not directly linked to any other European culture or language gives it quite an exotic and mysterious side, doesn't
Absolutely.
it? And an independence
Evidently.
and a sort of micro culture that's very proud and independent. Where did and you'd up until this point you'd obviously been building a reputation as a muralist amongst other things, not necessarily known as that, but obviously it draws the crowds quite a bit. And in some ways, it seems sort of destiny to end up doing a mural in your original, your place of origin. Yeah. So how did that then come about? Because did it not cross your mind at all before that point?
Oh yes,
of
course it must have done. So were you pushing it for it to happen, or how did it come about?
If a little bit. We probably didn't think it would happen, but with every show that I had, I always had promo material. So I did have like Shemanis, I did have like the expo. It was always on leaflets and things. So the locals would say, hey, you do these big mammoth murals elsewhere. Paul's got to do something for us.
Yeah, trying to find a wall in a village, big enough was not easy.
Yeah.
But eventually they built this schoolhouse and it had a massive, big, beautiful wall on one
Oh, that
side
was
of
it.
it.
Yeah.
The only problem there was we had it already organized
Yeah.
for me to do the mural
Yeah.
there, but the architect, the original architect of the building, didn't want anything to upset his